Hi YouTube, this is Rose, and this video is Jeffrey Epstein, suicide, murder, or the great escape. Is he just sleeping while they were carrying him out? Let's shoot guards at the MCC, that's the jail facility that Epstein was being held at, who normally have overnight shift that watches over suicide risk inmates, were both told to leave area 3 hours earlier for scheduled maintenance to jail cells and hallways. Okay, so some folks were told to leave that were watching Epstein. What do you think, folks? Is he just sleeping? Check this out. This whole situation leaves us with a lot of questions. There's a lot to talk about, and I'm going to make this as short as possible. First, I'm going to read a little bit from Zero Hedge. Today is Saturday, August 10th, 2019, and this was posted at 9:13 a.m. this morning. Jeffrey Epstein has died after having reportedly committed suicide in his jail, according to multiple news reports, after a gurney carrying what is believed to be Epstein has seen wheeled out of the Manhattan Correctional Center around 7:30 a.m., according to the New York Post. The 66-year-old Epstein was previously placed on suicide watch after he was found nearly unconscious inside his cell with marks on his neck. According to the Post report from late July, investigators questioned former Orange County police officer Nicholas Targentelino, or whatever his name is, suspected of killing 4 men in a cocaine distribution conspiracy in connection with the incident. The former cop claimed to have not seen anything nor touched Epstein. Needless to say, today's news is highly suspicious. Even the time of the day in this story is shocking. The first check-in on a prisoner who had already attempted suicide once was not until 7:30 a.m. Like, how much time did Epstein have in that cell all by himself? Now, what I find interesting is all they report is that he was found, that he committed suicide, and then they move right on to the rest of the story. They start talking about what his charges were and this and that, but an ambulance was called out at 6:40 a.m. Epstein was being treated by members of the detention center medical unit and was administered CPR. So evidently he was still alive, because according to CNN, he died a short time later at an area hospital. One of the sources said Epstein had been jailed. See, they go right into something else here. Now, what I want to also talk about is, what does this mean for the victims? Civil lawsuits could continue. The criminal charges won't be pursued against a deceased defendant. Accusers still could file lawsuits seeking money from Epstein's estate. Oh boy. One such lawsuit is expected to be filed as soon as Wednesday by a woman who alleged Epstein raped her when she was 15. Wednesday is the day that New York's Child Victims Act goes into effect, giving adult survivors of child sexual abuse 1 year to sue an abuser for the offenses in New York, no matter how long ago the abuse took place. That's excellent. Okay, well, that's a little ray of hope. Epstein's estate, you can imagine, would be sued by a lot of potential victims, so his suicide will not end coverage and interest in the Jeffrey Epstein case. Okay, so there's so many different questions going on here. Like, after Epstein's death, the guard at the place won't even answer if there are cameras in the cells. Cassandra Fairbanks in New York City is asking questions. I don't see a video, but I guess this is a picture of her out there asking questions. The prisoner staffer would not even answer if there were cameras in the prison cell. So I just wanted to touch on that. And I thought this was really funny. CNM. Two mysterious mustachineers. I don't even know how to say that. mustachioed men seen entering Epstein's jail cell moments before a suicide. Okay, well, it's not too funny, but this picture sure is funny. Two guards at the MMC who normally have overnight shift watches over suicide risk inmates were both told to leave area for 3 hours earlier for scheduled maintenance to jail cells and hallway. This morning, Epstein was found dead. Okay. Scott Hetchinger tweets, I am not into conspiracy theories. And Scott Hessinger, just so you know, is a public defender, senior staff attorney, and director of policy at Brooklyn Defender Services. Okay, so he's in the business, you could say. I'm not into conspiracy theories, but Epstein had destructive information on an extraordinary number of extraordinary powerful people. It is not easy to commit suicide in prison. That's another thing I want to talk about. Now, if he committed suicide, how did he do it? And how long did it take him to set it up? And whatever it is he did, I mean, the only thing he could possibly do is hang himself with some sheets. But from where? It just doesn't make zero sense, especially after being placed on suicide watch, especially after already allegedly trying. Now, maybe he's not dead. Maybe he just did a great escape, right? Jeffrey Epstein hanged himself in the New York City jail cell on Saturday morning. He was discovered by prisoner guards shortly before 7 a.m. and rushed to a nearby hospital. The 66-year-old was pronounced dead a short time later. And the FBI has now launched an investigation. Don't worry, folks, FBI's on it, into his death. Epstein was arrested on July 6th on charges of conspiracy and sex trafficking, human trafficking, a child rape is what he's being held on. He was reportedly, and I heard he had some horrible pictures in his mansion that were found, like eyeballs were everywhere. And there's this thing about eyeballs, folks. I'm telling you, a lot of these people are into eyeballs. And then also he had pictures of young girls, actual young girls. And according to Jake Morphonius, which this man is off the hook reporter, off the hook reporting. I'm going to end with some of his report. This is his paperwork from his website. These are some of the papers that were released 24 hours before Jeffrey Epstein was found supposedly had committed suicide and died at the hospital. Now, I'm just going to jump right in so you can see. Did you meet Al Gore? Yes. Did you meet Heidi Klum? Yes. Did you meet Naomi Campbell? Yes. Did you go on a 6-week trip with Epstein? Yeah. Yes. Sorry. When in 2001 did you go on a 6-week trip with him? I don't remember exactly when it was. Okay, so it talks about that, and then it also talks about Prince Andrew. I'll leave the links. Actually, what this is Blackstone Intelligence Network. This is all the Blackstone Vault has all the Epstein files in it. I'm going to be leaving the link to this gentleman's website because it is off the hook. He calls Jeffrey Epstein Dr. Rapenstein. It's so funny. There's lots of questions. There's a lot of stuff to talk about more when it comes to Epstein. Who wanted him dead? Quite a few people, right? And if you, let me just say one more time that Jake Morphonius has all these videos on Epstein talking about the connections that Trump has as well with Jeffrey Epstein. Or not Trump directly, but just this stuff, his reporting will blow your mind. I'm just going to play a few minutes of this as listen in on Jake's reporting, and I will be leaving his link. Thank you, Jake. I love your stuff. I'll be making a contribution. I've done it before in the past, and I will be contributing to your amazing work again.
Today is August 10th, 2019. Jeffrey Epstein was found dead this morning in his cell in the Manhattan Correctional Center. He reportedly hung himself. A gurney carrying a body which appeared to be his was wheeled out of the prison at 7:30 this morning and transported to the New York downtown hospital. Now, if your gut instinct is to wonder whether or not Epstein actually committed suicide, or if he was murdered, or if he was alive and well as he lay still on that gurney while being snuck out of the prison under false pretenses, you're not alone. With the amount of dirt that this man has on so many powerful people, many of us have been saying that this guy would be lucky to make it to trial without being suicided. Maybe he did kill himself, but there will be lingering doubts. I had done some digging a few weeks ago and learned that Epstein was being held in cell number 4 in the so-called 10 South Wing at Metro Correctional Center there in New York City. 10 South is a block of 6 cells known as the Terror Wing. This is where the worst of the worst are kept. 3 doors down from Epstein in cell number 1 was drug kingpin El Chapo. El Chapo, though, was transferred to the Supermax prison in Colorado. That's where Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, is kept. Someone else who was transferred out not that long ago from 10 South was President Trump's former presidential campaign chairman, Paul Manafort. He was sent about 2 weeks ago to a facility in Pennsylvania. So the 6 cells there in 10 South are usually reserved for inmates of notoriety. Not as much as a special punishment for them, but more a way to keep them away from the other inmates who are likely to kill them because of the high-profile status of the men. At the time, I don't know if it's still up, but you're welcome to check. You could find Epstein online at bop.gov. That's Bravo October Papa .gov/inmate LOC. If you go there to the BOP register and type in number 76318-54, that would bring his record up. These men on 10 South are kept in solitary. They're in their own private cells. It's often quite cold in the cells. The lights are kept on 23 out of 24 hours a day, and the only outside light coming in is from a small frosted glass window that you can't see out of. So it really is a rough place to have to stay. Remember,
Isn't that a horrible picture of Jeffrey? Oh, he looks like the Joker from Batman. It's just evil. And I'll tell you, once you listen to Jake Malfornius's report on Epstein, you're going to have your doubts about Trump. We got any people that love Trump, I mean, somebody's got to be president. But I don't really think we should trust any of these folks. I'm telling you, man, they're all a bunch of allegedly baby rapers.
Jeff Epstein is a guy who was used to getting
You have to say alleged.
3 nude massages from young girls each day in the comfort of his own luxury mansions. So it's not easy for a guy like Epstein to go from that to a cold, stinking cell on the 10 South Terror Wing.
Can you imagine, just for a second, what that must be like? This man supposedly had a biological need to have at least 3 sessions, or whatever you want to call them, massages a day, and that they all had to be different people. They are babies, I should say, because I remember what it was like to be 14 and 15 years old. I mean, you literally could be talked into anything, really. And you believe people for what they say because basically you're a child and your flesh suit is just growing into looking like an adult. I'm probably pretty much the same size I was when I was 14. So girls don't get much bigger and grow much more than that physically. But emotionally, you're still very much a child. And what this man has done to these young ladies, and then if you listen to Jake's reporting, he shows a picture of one of the pictures that was in Jeffrey Epstein's house, and it's a picture of a child, couldn't be more than 9 years old, bent over, exposed completely at their bottom. And this is a real picture of a real person hung and framed in Jeffrey Epstein's wall. So, I think it's a really strong possibility that the man is escaped. He left with a pulse. His body is no longer in that prison cell. He couldn't take it anymore. He couldn't handle it anymore. Nobody can handle that kind of. That's total torture. And then to go from all this elegant pleasure, oh, that's insanity. Wow. Where is Jeffrey Epstein's body right now?
The conditions there are pretty brutal. Possibly, you could even say that they're inhumane. But for Epstein, with this apparent suicide, it is an unfortunate outcome in so many ways, because his death means there is not going to be a trial. He will not have to face his victims in court. They won't get to see justice. He won't have to endure a lifetime in prison, suffering for what he did. And
very, very good point made, right, folks? I'm sure you feel the same way. You can agree with that one.
For me as a journalist, I fear that this means that so much of what we could have learned through the court case will never come to light, that many of his secrets have died with him. I've been working to uncover as many of those secrets as I can. I've been producing a podcast series that deep dives into the Epstein story. If you'd like to listen to this series, you'll find the podcast on Spreaker, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and more.
Okay, I'm going to leave his links and everything, folks. I highly recommend you subscribe to everything this young man has. And he's a wonderful family man. He's got a really interesting history. Comes from a family of sleuths, family, and that people that have always been in the criminal justice business, I should say. He had a grandmother. Anyways, I'm going to leave that. I highly recommend you follow this man's work. You would be very well pleased. I will leave the links to his website where you can find all the Epstein documents that were released and have been released. Okay, folks, I love each and every one of you. Have the best night and day ever. Bye.